Arashi, Prince of the Sky. Chapter 5, Harlem Nights. Present day. Arashi sat on the train, trying not to look at anyone directly in the eye. Each time he looked up, he would catch someone staring at him. There was cause for stares. He was bleeding pretty badly. The deep gash on his arm was starting to bleed through. He applied as much pressure as he could to get the bleeding to stop, but the searing pain was almost too great. He lowered his hoodie down over his head and tried to keep his mind off of it.
Next stop, 96th Street. Please stand clear of the closing doors.
It was a long ride home, but he was close now. He couldn't help but wonder what his parents would say to him now. They probably thought he had a death wish or something, which in all honesty wouldn't be too far from the truth. His life on Earth was not something he would describe as bliss. Granted, he wasn't complaining. He had a great life. 2 loving parents, a stable home, and all of that. But some days, he felt so trapped in his head that he would find himself thinking of different ways to try to end it all. Sometimes he felt like there was a void in his life he couldn't fill. He wanted just to be. But being a teenager sucked. And being a mute teenager sucked more. And being a mute teenager with social anxiety and depression with a permanent piss-off look on his face sucked the most. But what really upset him was the fact that he knew he was a dragon, a powerful spirit of the sky, a guardian of the moon, bringer of the storm, and yet with all of that, he still felt powerless here. Every time he had to turn in homework for school or study for some stupid test, he couldn't help but feel like he was completely wasting his talents. He didn't have the spiritual knowing thing down like Ishara did. It just didn't come naturally for him. It was like having the keys to a car and not knowing how to drive. He reflected on how each time he would try and meditate, he would feel a block. Something was keeping him from reaching his true spiritual awareness. He knew it was because of fear. And it was driving him crazy, not knowing how to connect to his higher self and break the block, especially the block from Ishara. He couldn't contact her for help or guidance. She had been with him since the very beginning, and he's never felt so lonely. He got off the train on 117th Street in Harlem and made his way up the block. Careful to keep his hoodie low, the block liked to talk. The street lights were already on, which meant he was way past his curfew. He walked past the guys in the corner, playing craps, and thought to himself something that had not occurred to him before. The appearance of fear, after all this time, meant that the balance was beginning to shift again. But he just hadn't noticed it yet. The thought alone meant that it was time for a visit to the spirit realm. But how? He walked up the steps to his parents' brownstone, the house he grew up in. He looked up and saw the lights on, so everyone must be home by now. He thought about going somewhere else, at least to clean himself up a bit, so as not to give his mother a heart attack. Burmy was never one to get too worried, but he's also never shown up to her door sliced up the way he was. Arashi took a deep breath and turned around. He figured he would go to the store first and get some bandages. He hated sympathy from others. It made him feel weak and helpless, which he was not. He turned around and bumped into a large figure standing directly behind him.
Well, well, well! Look what the cat drag did! My long-lost son, Prince of the Sky and King of Ketchup! Or do my eyes deceive me?
Bishop was looking down upon him with a suspicious grin.
Yeah, dad jokes. What's up, little man? You had a date or something?
He pulled his hood down from Arashi's face and lifted his chin. Bishop never missed a thing. The cut across his cheek was dark blue in the shape of a crescent moon. He bent low to his eye level, then pulling up his sleeve to reveal the bloody bandana around his wrist. His rage became palpable.
Boy, what mess you done got yourself into now, huh? Who did this to you? Tell me!
Bishop shook him by the shoulders. Arashi didn't know if he actually ever saw his father upset. Tears were welling up in his eyes. He closed his eyes and shook his head. He hated feeling like a victim. He always thought of himself as being a lone rider, not having to explain anything to anyone. He felt embarrassed at himself for being this battered. Bishop just hugged him tightly. After a few moments, he pulled away so he could see his face. Tears started to fall down Arashi's face as he stared down at the ground. His pain was obvious, but not because of his injuries.
Son, please. I need to know what happened to you. It's okay. You can tell me.
Bishop pleaded with him. He sat him down on the steps and gave him a minute to breathe, waving politely to people walking by. He was patient, but he didn't know how to react to seeing his son like this. It hurt him to his core, and he wanted blood from whoever did this. Arashi looked up from the ground and recited his story using his sign language. Because he was born without a voice, Bishop and Burmy had to take on learning sign language, ASL, something neither of them thought they would ever have to do, but they were grateful for the opportunity to learn. It took a while, but they got the hang of it. Arashi started his story from the time he was at the arcade and how he had upped the stakes by betting money. He explained that when they cheated him, he accidentally, on purpose, swiped their wallets and ran to the train. He got to the part where fear took over the body of the boys and tried to kill him, again. Bishop was in shock and was even more upset because there wasn't any way of tracking fear. It was a mischievous, evil spirit that appeared and disappeared in the blink of an eye.
I don't understand. Why now?
Is the balance off again?
You know, if you hadn't provoked them, this probably wouldn't have happened. You understand that, right?
Arashi shrugged nonchalantly, being a kid.
Son, you're only 14 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. You gotta be smarter, which means making better choices. You understand me?
He didn't want to push him too hard. Arashi had a habit of shutting down when he didn't want to communicate, but his concerns for his well-being were at a peak. Arashi looked away. He didn't want to talk anymore. He was more concerned with the fact that his wrists felt like it was going to catch a flame if he didn't run it under some water or something.
Okay, I'll let you off the hook for now. Let's get you cleaned up. Maybe we can avoid your mom for a minute while you do. Deal?
Arashi turned around and gave Bishop the best smirk he could muster. His father was always easy. They stood up and embraced one last time.
That's my guy. Okay, let's go. Sneak you in first.
Hey, how about you let me save you the trouble of doing the sneaking in and catch you before you even begin? Oh snap, that rhymed.
Burmy was sticking her head out the window, her long locks falling over her shoulders.
Oh, Cher! Love of my life, my sweet mi amor. We was just...
Save it, Pepe Le Pew. You're caught in the act.
But...
Now get in this house. Dinner is cold as is, and you're keeping our guest waiting.
Burmy went in and slammed the window shut. Bishop and Arashi looked at each other in confusion. Guest? Arashi definitely didn't feel like entertaining guests. They entered their home, and the warm smell of fresh cornbread landed like heaven on their noses as Burmy met them in the hall. Her hands were on her hips, giving that Harlem girl attitude. She just shook her head as the boys took off their shoes and hung up their jackets in the foyer. Arashi caught himself in the mirror and had to look away quickly. Bishop walked up to Burmy and kissed her on the cheek.
Have a good day at work, sweetie?
Burmy asked, with a devilish look on her face.
Yeah, sure, Cher. Just another...
Yeah, sure. Get
Oh.
in the kitchen. You, little boy, are coming with me.
Burmy brushed her husband away with a flick of her wrist and grabbed her son by the hand to lead him up the stairs to the bathroom.
Well, damn. I don't get no respect.
Bishop took a stab to the heart and walked into the dining room area. The old steps creaked under their feet as they climbed the stairs. This house had been in Bishop's possession since they moved to Harlem almost 20 years ago. Burmy cut on the lights to their old Victorian bathroom. She reached into the medicine cabinet and pulled out first aid kits. Arashi sat down on the toilet seat, played with his thumbs as he waited for his mother to speak. She grabbed a wash rag and wet it first with soap and water to clean his face. She was careful to clean around the cut on his face. It was already starting to scab, but the skin around it was also looking infected. She shook her head as she took the hot rag to his face, trying to block out the flashbacks of that night with Ishara 15 years ago. Her rebellious boy, always up to mischief. His thrill-seeking has gotten him into a lot of trouble in the past, but lately, he's been more reckless than usual. She took precaution when scolding him, though. She had the unique ability to be unconditionally understanding, especially after dealing with Ishara. She was equipped with the right temperament, but on days like this, she wondered if she was doing the right thing. However, it never escaped her mind for too long the role she plays in his life. Every time it rained, she thought about Ishara and the bond they shared forever. And that night she met for the first time her little boy, the dragon. That entire experience alone gave meaning and purpose to life itself. She still wondered why she was chosen to be the mother of these spirits. She did her best to accept it, but she was just a normal person. Arashi was so much different than Ishara. Practically her polar opposite. He was subdued and kept to himself, fierce yet mysterious, and always had a sadness in his eye that broke her heart. She wanted nothing but for him to be happy, but she was running out of ideas. She never forgot the dream she had all those years ago, of the boy on the cloud, gleaming under starlight with the galaxy in his eyes. She knew him better than anyone. She grabbed his face in her hands and gave him the "everything's gonna be okay" look. His gray blue eyes said it all. Ever since he was a baby, his eyes showed her everything she needed to know about him. And when he was sad, the whole world knew. On nights he would stay up crying as a toddler. The wind and the rain would threaten to blow the house down. When he was mad, the lightning would hit the house and cause power outages. Burmy had taken on the responsibility of having a storm as a child. And there is absolutely nothing anyone can teach you on how to deal with that. But they managed, with some help. She applied some more water to the rag and dabbed his wrist. It definitely was showing signs of being infected. It was a clean vertical cut starting from the tip of his palm to the middle of his forearm. The bleeding stopped, but there were black veins expanding from the cut like a creature. Something was terribly wrong. For the past 10 years, Burmy had refocused herself on practicing medicine and holistic healing. She has been a Reiki master for the past 7, but she'd never seen anything like this.
Ari, who or what did this to you?
He looked at her and gestured to his throat. She stifled a gasp. She knew what that meant instantly. She took a deep breath and wrapped the gash up in the bandage. After running some of her oils and solutions on it, she held his wrist with both her hands and closed her eyes, focusing her energy to help stop the spread of the dark energy. She could feel the electricity running through his veins. It was almost overwhelming, the amount of power he had trapped inside of him, waiting to come out.
I have a surprise for you.
She stood him up and led him downstairs. And he was really curious as to what type of surprise he would be in the mood for right now. They headed down the steps and heard Bishop telling one of his many bodyguard stories. There was laughter, and then Arashi knew exactly what the surprise was, or rather who. They walked into the dining room and were greeted by his adopted brother.
Hey, what up, little brother?
Shimari said, getting up from the table to give Arashi a big bear hug, which he knew he hated. It had been a couple years now since Shimari moved out to continue his studies in school. He claimed he still didn't know what he wanted to do as a career, or so that's what he told them.
Is that my little thunder baby? Oh, sweetie, what happened to your face? What happened to his face?
Nanabe said, standing up. She pushed Shimari to the side and squeezed his head into her bosom. They all acted like his parents. He was already exhausted. Nanabe had moved back to Canada when Arashi was only 10 to continue her study of spiritual practice through yoga and meditation. She was very popular and had a huge following of people under her teachings. After Niagara Falls, they were both too young to live on their own, and with no other family to speak of. So, Burmy decided to bring them back to New York, and Bishop offered his home. And they have been together ever since.
You know the kid stays getting in trouble.
Yeah, and I wonder where you picked that up from.
Okay, everyone, sit down and leave my baby alone. He's hungry, and more importantly, I'm hungry. Y'all made me wait, and you know how Mama gets when she gets hungry.
Burmy said, opening the dishes she had placed on the table. It was basically a whole Thanksgiving meal. Soul food for the soul. Turkey wings, sweet potatoes, mac and cheese, collard greens, rice and beans, the works.
Okay, kids, serve yourselves.
Burmy was already making herself a plate of yams. Arashi followed up by grabbing some buns with butter. He loved her bread.
Dang, Mama B, you went in. Yo, you pregnant or something?
Shut up,
Shy.
Arashi chuckled to himself. Such an annoying big brother. Growing up, he would love hanging out with Shimari and getting into trouble. He could relate to his carefree, rebellious attitude towards life. It was refreshing. Not to mention, Shamari could be a bit overprotective.
Y'all gonna learn to respect me.
Shamari said, grabbing a large helping of mac and cheese. Nanabe shot him a disgusted look.
You gotta earn it first, fool.
She said to him, reaching for the yams.
Hey, you know who you gotta respect though? Thunderboy here. Hey, you don't have to tell me what happened. I just wanna know if you won.
Shamari said, elbowing Arashi in the ribs. He responded by shoving a loaf of bread into his mouth and smiling with full cheeks.
Petit garçon, that's rude. And Shy, shut it on up until after dinner.
Bishop said, giving his signature I'm not playing with you look. Shy mouthed the words punk to Arashi, who just laughed and continued eating.
Nanabe, how's the studio doing?
Oh, really? Good. I have a lot of gifted students this year. Lots of potential being unlocked. I know Granddad would be proud.
Aw, honey, that's really good.
Yeah, Ari, you know you're always welcome to come by and practice with the students.
Arashi looked up from his food, nodded his head, and quickly went back to eating.
Okay then. Well, today during meditation, I noticed some familiar dark energies in the city. I think we all know which I'm referring to.
She caught a glance at Arashi, who glanced up at Bishop for a flicker, and then continued eating.
But you know what? It is the city. There's always a slew of fearful energy swirling around. But we're keeping an eye out for any potential sightings of you-know-what.
Ah, man, forget fear, man. We got the dragon right here.
Shamari said, smacking Arashi on the back, causing him to choke on his bread.
Stop it, you idiot. Do you ever quit?
Nanabe said, slapping the back of Shamari's head. But at that moment, Arashi's vision faded to black for only a moment. He was alone in the dark, and he could see a giant figure walking towards him. It was some sort of large creature walking on two legs, and it was coming for him. He opened his eyes and felt a tingling in his arm where the cut was. It started burning and throbbed under the bandage. The pain was so great, he got up from the table, grabbing his arm like it wasn't his own.
Babe, what's wrong? Shamari, what the heck is the matter with you?
Burmy got up from the table. They all stood up as Arashi thrashed about, grabbing his arm. Come on now, it wasn't my fault. Who attacked him? Now would be the time to tell us and fill us in on some shit rather than keep secrets and shit, Shamari said, getting up behind Arashi to hold him steady. His breathing had gotten short and shallow, and he was starting to sweat.
Well, sorry to say it, but he has a point, guys. What happened?
Lay him down on the couch. Share, grab some ice from the fridge.
Burmy ran into the kitchen to fetch some ice.
He was attacked today on the train by some kids, but one of the boys was being possessed by the spirit of fear. It cut him with the blade created by dark magic. It must be having some sort of effect on him now. Nana, is there anything you can do?
Arashi was writhing with pain, trying to breathe through it, but the pain was telling him something else was about to happen. Then, everything stopped. The world around him turned icy blue, and everyone around him was frozen solid. The pain had subsided, but he wasn't sure what was going on. Then, he saw her. Ishara appeared out of thin air like a ghost. She wore a satin white dress that touched her feet, and she looked the same as she did 15 years ago.
Brother, you're all in grave danger. The curse of fear has been placed inside of you through that cut on your arm. He's been brewing for some time now, and there's something coming for you. Get everyone out!
He sat up and looked at her, then down at his arm.
Ishara, where have you been? I haven't been able to contact you. How the heck did that monster manage to get me again?
Brother, the connection was cut by fear. It has been blocking you since your birth. This is not the time to feel sorry for yourself. Be kind to yourself. It wasn't your fault.
But it was my fault, Ishara. It was. And now I'm cursed with this thing inside of me.
She knelt down beside him and touched his forehead. It started to glow, and so did hers. The light of the third eye.
We are connected, brother. You are never alone. I have to go. Trust our family. I'll see you again soon.
She placed her hand on his arm, and it glowed a white light. Then she was gone. Life reanimated, and there was a massive bang on the door.
What the heck was that?
Arashi was still laid out on the couch. Thanks to Ishara, the pain had subsided, but the curse was still present inside of him. He got his father's attention to warn him of the danger.
Well, we're used to danger, ain't we, son? All right, honey, take him upstairs to the roof. Y'all could escape from there. And you're sticking with me, sharpshooter. Let's go.
A word? All right, let's go. I knew this trip would be worth it. Pow, pow.
Shamari pulled out his double pistols, and Bishop scooped his 3-barrel shotgun out of the umbrella rack and cocked it.
Y'all, get to moving!
Bishop had an iron reinforced door installed for any threats. Nothing would have an easy time getting through those doors, but the fact that their brownstone was being shifted by the weight of whatever was on the other side of those doors meant that this was no little threat. Burmy and Nanabe helped Arashi to his feet and took him upstairs as fast as they could.
Don't let him break anything, honey.
Yeah, will do, Cher. Nothing to worry about. Oh, no, oh yeah, we'll be fine too.
I love you.
Woman, get up them steps.
The door was starting to give way as a wicked spirit energy was starting to seep into the home.
You remember what I taught you, boy?
Heck yeah, big man, I'm ready, man. Pa-pew, 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 pew. Shamari was hopping from one leg to the other, a little too excited. They trained long hours together for moments like this. Bishop was confident in Shamari's skills. He was powerful. Whatever was on the other side of that door was big as hell. And if it got in, everything would be destroyed.
Okay, we're taking this outside, Shy. Follow my lead.
Shamari nodded and prepared himself. Bishop counted down.
3, 2, 1.
And charged at the door that was about to give way to whatever was on the other side. Shamari was right on his tail. Bishop burst through the doors, pushing the creature down to the steps below. The entire door came off its hinges and landed on the creature. Bishop jumped down the steps onto the door and was able to roll off of it to the sidewalk below. Shamari stayed at the top of the steps, ready to open fire. The creature got up and flung the door at Bishop, who was just nearly able to dodge it as it collided with the car behind him that was parked on the street, setting off every car alarm on the block. It was late at night, and the streetlights were on. They could make out what the creature was. It was huge. It stood at least 9 feet tall, with a huge wide jaw that hung real low to the ground, twisted sharp teeth and everything. Its body looked like it was made up of conglomerate rock, but the main feature was its glowing red eyes, like the devil, and the black crystal wedged between his eyes. God, you are one ugly sucker. Oh, and got the nerve to be breaking stuff with your ugly butt. Shamari let loose a rain of bullets on the creature as he jumped down and started running down the handrail. He jumped off of it and kicked the creature in the head, sending it backward into the street. People were starting to turn on lights in their homes and apartment buildings and looking out their windows at the commotion. The creature got up and started charging towards Shamari in a mad rage, but it catapulted forward when it was hit with Bishop's powerful shotgun from behind. It burned a fiery hole in the creature's back, but as it rose, the hole began to close.
Ah, shoot! It heals, Shy! We gotta knock out the spirit energy!
Shamari hopped up on one of the cars nearby and started taking closer aim. Alright, you big old ugly cow, I'ma split you down the middle. Their weapons were made to channel their own spirit energy, something Bishop had developed a while back. The creature raised its arm to shield the crystal. Then something surprising happened. The rock pellets started shooting out from its arm like bullets. Shamari ducked behind the cars as rocks pummeled the exterior of the car, breaking windows. Bishop took this opportunity to run up on the creature and start whacking it with his gun. Once the creature turned around, he opened fire on its chest. A direct hit sent it flying backward into the street.
Yeah, baby, hit him again! Kick his butt!
Burmy yelled down from the roof. They were peeking over the edge, watching the action unfold. Burmy was always so excited to see Bishop fighting. She believed in him so much, she never imagined he could ever lose a battle. But suddenly, with alarming speed, the creature was back on its feet. It grabbed the nearest car, ripped off the door to chuck it towards him. Only this time, Bishop wasn't fast enough to dodge it. It knocked him on his ass.
Oh, shoot! Sorry, honey!
Maybe you should stop helping me.
Nanabe was holding Arashi's head in her arms. He was still very weak. The pain was gone, but he felt like the energy was being drained from his body.
Okay, backing down. Nana, what can we do about his arm? Your powers are stronger than mine. Maybe we can try and expel the curse?
Okay, I'll take a look at it. Honestly, I don't have a lot of experience with curses, but we can try our best to counter the effects. Help me remove the bandages? But it would help if I saw what the weapon used was. Alright, do you mind?
Nanabe had the ability to see memories and thoughts, but only if someone allowed her to. Arashi nodded his head weakly and relaxed his defenses to allow her in. She held her hands over his temples and closed her eyes, taking them back to earlier in the day. She was standing there with Ari as he saw the weapon materialize and fear slice at his arm.
Oh boy.
What?
Well, I saw the weapon. It was definitely not something I've ever seen before. But if it's fear, we know where to start. To heal him, it's emotionally triggered. We can counter it. I think I know what can help.
Nanabe reached into her back pocket and pulled out a tiny pouch. She emptied the contents of the pouch into the palm of her hand to reveal an assortment of tiny crystals. She had at least a dozen of them. They seemed to glow in her hand. She closed her eyes and squeezed her hands tightly as the glow illuminated her hand, and the rainbow lights danced across his skin. Meanwhile, back on the street, the battle attracted a crowd of people standing on both ends of the block, hiding behind cars and randomly snapping pictures. Shimari was dodging blows from the creature and firing his spirit gun, trying to aim for the head, but it would block it every time. They needed a blast that would take it out completely, head and all. The monster was getting angrier and angrier by the minute. It even appeared like it was growing in size. It roared and picked up the nearest car, lifted it over its head, and threw it at Shimari like a snowball. Shoot, 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 shoot! The car just narrowly missed him. It exploded, sending pieces of glass and car parts flying everywhere. People started running for their lives. This battle was getting too real, and the sirens were heading their way.
Okay, big guy, I've had enough.
Bishop was running towards the creature. He had been gathering a large supply of spirit energy to hit him with a full-on blast. He got up under it as it flailed and swung its massive arms. He cocked his giant gun and unleashed the energy directly into the beast. The blast sent the creature spiraling backward and crashing into a nearby trash pile. It took a bit longer this time for it to get back on its feet. They were wearing it down, but they were also running out of ammo.
Nana, we don't have much time here. How is he looking?
Burmy was coming back from the edge of the roof. She was keeping an eye on the situation in case they had to actually make an escape. Nanabe was focused heavily on the dark energy. It started to shroud the space around them in a dark purple haze, but she focused all her energy on clearing the dark air and replacing it with healing light. The stones helped channel her power, but she feared it wouldn't be enough. Suddenly, her hands started to quiver. She felt a heavy wave of nausea hit her. Then it appeared in her mind. Fear. It was as if she was trapped in a hallucination. She was being bombarded with frightening images of sickness and disgusting creatures, the stuff of nightmares. It sent her body cold.
Burmy!
She called out to her, frightened she would lose her sanity.
Take my hand, quickly!
Burmy rushed over and did what she was told. Arashi was still laid out, unable to help. He was trapped in his own hallucinations. When they touched hands, the images began to dissipate. Then something unexpected happened. Burmy's necklace started to glow, the one that she kept around her neck for all these years. Nanabe felt the energy surge and opened her eyes to witness the powerful veil that surrounded them, the energy coming straight from her crystal.
That's it! The stone, Burmy! Of course! Why didn't I think of it before?
What? What did I do? My stone? Oh yeah, of course, the stone Nagu gave me. He said it's one of the rarest.
On Earth, Burmy, you have no idea what you're carrying. These stones are ancient magic. Nagu must have known this. Okay, place the stone on his chest and let's try to fight this thing for real.
Burmy nodded her head and took off her stone. It shined brighter than she'd ever seen it before. She placed it on his chest and watched the light swirl. Back on the ground, the creature was doing something odd. It was mutating. It was concentrating energy in his body like a furnace.
What the heck is going on now?
Shimari was running up next to Bishop. They were both standing at least 20 feet away from the creature, but could feel the heat that it was giving off.
I don't know, son, but keep your guard up. We may have to make a run for it if we can't take it out in the next few moves.
The creature let out another terrifying roar, and pieces of it started to melt to the ground. Really disgusting-looking replicas. Several of them started to take shape. They looked like demon bats with wings. They screeched and started to take flight. Then, their attention went from Bishop and Shimari to the roof, where they could see a blue light starting to illuminate the night sky.
Take him out, Shy! Don't let him fly!
Bishop cocked his gun and ran towards the creature. Shimari took aim at the creatures as well. They started to fly towards their home. He was able to get a few, but they were too quick.
God damn it! Nana, heads up!
Meanwhile, the stone was working. Arashi started to feel the electricity in his body again, coursing through his veins. The light vibrated like a heartbeat. The glow was illuminating his entire body as he started levitating from the ground. Burmy and Nanabe took a step back to allow the energy to build. Arashi felt the power of the stone, opening up parts of him that he didn't know existed. Like a canal that was obstructed by a dam, it allowed the energy to flow through his entire body, unblocked.
Oh my god! Ari!
Burmy yelled as several of the creatures came into sight. They hurled toward them, screeching. hungry for blood. Then, Arashi opened his eyes. They were glowing. He faced the creatures and opened his mouth to scream. No sound came out, but the sound of thunder made them frenzy and lose control. Burmy and Anabe had to cover their ears.
Just like when he was a baby. Ow!
Burmy said to Anabe, who shook her head in agreement. The wind began to pick up, and the electricity sparked from Arashi's fingertips.
Yeah, knock him dead, honey!
Arashi was brimming with this wave of energy that he's not felt since he was a spirit. Pointing his fingers like a gun, he unleashed a shower of spirit energy like bullets at the creatures. When the bullets hit, they spazzed out of control and exploded like fireworks. Arashi jumped off the roof and landed on the ground below like a feather in front of the stone creature. When it noticed him, the gleam in his eyes lit up. Bubbling rage surged to the surface as it started to charge towards him. Bishop and Shimari watched in awe as Arashi calmly walked toward the charging bull. Fear was present, whispering in his ear.
You're a failure. You have no worth. You're nothing. They're all gonna hate you.
Arashi found a new power inside of him, a power that has always been there. And with great courage, he looked the creature dead in the eye, simply, and lifted his right hand and summoned a ball of lightning that he artfully manipulated into a bow that he held in his left hand. Then, with eyes glowing bright, he released the light arrow at the creature. It exploded from his hands like a rocket and hurled through it. The blast was so powerful, it completely obliterated the creature and kept surging down the block until the energy dissipated, and there was nothing left of the creature but a smoking carcass. The sound of thunder could be heard echoing in the air as people in the nearby buildings began to cheer. Bishop stood in awe of his son's power yet again. It has been 15 years since he's been able to see him do anything even close to that.
Oh, shoot. Alright, yo, you ain't have to do him like that.
Shimari said, running over towards Arashi just as he was starting to lose grounding.
Oh, hey, you okay?
Shimari asked him as he caught him by the arm. Arashi shrugged yes, but he was feeling the power draining from him at a rapid pace.
Son, hey, look at me. Stay with me.
Bishop came over, but his vision was fading until all he saw was shapes and shadows, turning to black. End of chapter 5.